everyone. I'm sorry to be posting so late. It's been a little crazy around here, but I definitely do want to share my thoughts for the readings from this module with you. So I'm going to start with the Paulson and Smart quote and then look at two other topics, wasteful year-end spending and forecasting expenses and revenues. So if you see me looking down, I've got my notes, I've got both of my texts over here, and I'll be referencing those throughout. So first, let's dive into the Paulson and Smart quote that we were given to look at this week. It reads, budget and financial officers at today's colleges and universities are wrestling with the problem of creating responsible approaches to financing their institution during times of enormous ambiguity and uncertainty. So first, what I wanted to do is place this quote in context. We had part of the citation in the assignment for this week for the discussion board, so I looked it up. The ebook that this comes from is linked very easily. You can find it on Galileo, and this was written in 2001. So the challenges that higher education was facing in 2001 were a little bit different than some of the challenges we're seeing today. This comes from the conclusion, I want to say the final chapter of that book, and the sentence that immediately follows it is changes in the higher education environment, e.g. evolving student body composition, newly available methods for financing capital expenditures, and the delivery of more and varied educational products through the internet, make this identification of new budgeting tools essential for institutional advancement. So you can see that some of the challenges that were just emerging in 2001, like using the internet for course delivery, did present some new and unique financial challenges that budget officers and financial officers needed to look at and consider. They didn't necessarily know what was coming down the pipeline with technology advances being made so quickly at that time. And they knew that they were probably going to have to invest in technology to keep up, but maybe even at that time they didn't quite know what that technology was. So that was a unique challenge to them at the time that Paulson and Smart were writing. So I think we can definitely bring that quote into today. They say that they're trying to find responsible approaches to financing their institution during times of enormous ambiguity and uncertainty. And I would say that we are in a time of enormous ambiguity and uncertainty in higher education again today. If you look at politics and funding changes for higher education, we see that. I just finished a class this past year on grant writing, and some of the grants that used to be available may not be available moving forward. So that's something that if universities want to do things that were previously grant funded, or they want to apply for grants in order to fund some of their new endeavors, they may not be able to do that if certain educational grants really are cut in the way that we're anticipating cuts to those programs. And also there's uncertainty about what is next with a new political administration coming in. What is the dedication to higher education? We've seen a lot of K-12 issues in the news recently. And I gotta say, I don't think it looks promising for K-12 education as far as this new administration's, the national administration's consideration of education and what funding they're going to put towards education. And so I don't think we've seen a whole lot about higher ed yet, but I'm sure that budget and financial officers are being very cautious right now. So we are in a time of uncertainty and ambiguity where schools may be trying to play it safe right now. An additional topic that I wanted to bring in, I want to look at our Credibix text. This is on page 84 and 85. It has to do with wasteful year-end spending. I'm going to read a few sentences hopefully quickly. This is about centralized budgets. It says, a centralized budget method is by far the most widely used method in higher education budgeting. An institution that uses a centralized budget approach brings all of its revenue into the central pool, then distributes it according to internal policies and procedures. And that's what we do at the institution that I work in. We have a centralized budget. But Credibix goes on to write that in a centralized budget model, it's not uncommon for central administration or the state to require that all unspent monies at year's end be returned to the central pool, which is the way it is at my institution as well. This money can then be redistributed to units needing additional financial support or used to fund other institutional priorities as deemed appropriate by the administrators. This type of take-back by the central unit encourages wasteful spending towards the end of the fiscal year. Few administrators want to return money. Therefore, they will approach this with a fire sale mentality and search for ways to spend the last dollars remaining before the fiscal year ends and central administration swallows up remaining balances. And for us, it's not just about remaining balances being swallowed up, but not getting that allocation of funds again, because we didn't need it this year and we can't really prove a need for next year. Why would they give it to us? So we do have some of that year-end spending. Now, I know in my department, one thing that we do is look at supplies and get that at year-end. Are we running low on letterhead? Who needs to reorder business cards? Are our computers still in good shape? Does anybody need a new one? Things like that. But there's also kind of a search for how to spend money. We have a wish list going throughout the year, and then it's like, hey, what wish list items can we get? And sometimes those are big items. We got our iPads with year-end money, which we use all the time in our work, so it turned out to be a really good purchase. Was it an essential purchase? Now that I have it, I'd make the argument, yes, I don't know what I'd do without it, but at the time, was it really? I think that's up for debate. So I think that we do see some of that wasteful spending towards the end of the fiscal year. Of course, you still have to show that what you're getting is being used in your department, and so I don't think that it's irresponsible spending necessarily, just that threat of having to give money back and not get it again. It doesn't feel good. So departments want to spend all that they can. And maybe that money could be used in more meaningful ways in another area on campus. So I think every department deals with that. I know that we do here. And of course, I've just started a new job, so I'm not even in that same department that I'm referencing before. But I think all departments face that to some extent. And then the second thing that I wanted to bring in is in the Barr McClellan text. So let me grab that. And this is on page 97. This has to do with forecasting expense and revenue. That first paragraph right there in italics, it says revenue should be forecast as conservative figures, but expenses should not. And I think that's interesting in relation to the centralized budgets that we just looked at and wasteful spending. I do think it's sound financial advice. Consider having less than you might have that conservative figure, and then overestimate your expenses so that at the end you're not coming up short. I do think that's a good thing to do, both in personal budgets and in your departmental budget. However, if you do that and you're left with money at the end, then is there that frenzy to spend it if you're using a centralized budget? So just something to think about. I think that maybe using more of a realistic approach rather than overestimating one area and underestimating in another could help with that year-end spending frenzy. So something to think about. I'm glad to hear your thoughts on that. I hope that you guys have time to catch my video and comment on it. I know I'm kind of posting here at the last minute, but I'm also excited to go back and watch some of yours and hear the things that you thought were important this week. Bye!